Welcome the anointed ones. When the curtains fall, the actors are revealed, and some of them weren't even supposed to be on stage. Welcome to the age where privacy isn't a right, it's a time bomb. And guess what? Someone just accidentally sat on it, in HD. We live in a world where one leak is louder than a press release, and a screenshot travels faster than a lie can limp into a PR meeting. What was meant to be whispered behind closed doors is now projected onto digital billboards powered by rage, receipts, and retweets. True fact, 82% of people believe their private conversations online are safe, which is cute, because the other 18% work in cybersecurity, tech, or scandal cleanup. And now, one chosen one, once untouchable, once admired, maybe even envied, is about to become a viral case study in how fast a reputation can combust when the truth escapes the group chat. So buckle up. This isn't a cancellation, this is a digital crucifixion, and they lit the match themselves. Number 1. They built their throne on secrets. Now the crowd holds the blueprint. They built their throne on secrets. Now the crowd holds the blueprint. It sounds dramatic, but that's exactly what happens when someone's carefully crafted private life goes public. When you're used to controlling the narrative, secrets become the bricks of your empire. You pick and choose what the world sees. You edit, filter, and curate your identity until it looks untouchable. But the problem with building on secrets is this. Once even one crack shows, the whole structure starts shaking, and it doesn't take much for everything to fall apart. What people don't realize is the public isn't passive anymore. They're not just watching. They're decoding. They zoom in, rewind, screen record, cross-reference, and archive everything. So when the truth slips, maybe a voice note leaks, a DM screenshot surfaces, or a private video accidentally lands online, it's not just a moment of embarrassment. It's an unmasking. And suddenly, the same people who cheered you on are analyzing your downfall like forensic detectives with Wi-Fi and way too much free time. This is deeper than cancel culture. It's consequence culture. Because when you build a public image on lies, half-truths, or silence, and the truth finally comes out, people don't just feel surprised, they feel betrayed. And betrayal fuels backlash, the kind that doesn't stop after one news cycle. The kind that sticks to your name like a digital tattoo. The worst part? Once the truth is out, you don't get to choose how it's interpreted. You don't get to explain or spin it fast enough. The crowd has the blueprint now. They see the rooms you tried to hide. They see the trapdoors, and they will keep pulling apart the walls until they're sure there's nothing left you buried under the floorboards. So yes, they built their throne on secrets. And now the crowd isn't just watching. They're holding the receipts, the red string, and the final plot twist. Number 2. The spotlight doesn't forgive, it dissects. The spotlight doesn't forgive, it dissects. Once you're exposed, even slightly, you don't just get looked at. You get pulled apart, frame by frame, word by word. People don't just want the headline anymore, they want the entire anatomy of the story. They want context, subtext, timestamps, voice inflection, body language, and motive. And the truth is, once the internet locks in on you, it investigates harder than most real journalists. The scary part? The spotlight doesn't wait for your side of the story. The second something questionable hits the timeline, it's already being picked apart by strangers who now think they know you better than your own friends. They'll take a 7-second clip and build a 10-minute theory. They'll pull up tweets from 2014 and line them up with your latest apology video like it's a court case. This isn't just exposure. It's dissection in real time, by an audience that doesn't care about nuance unless it proves their point. And let's be real, the louder your silence, the more they'll fill in the blanks for you. People are suspicious by nature. If you don't explain it, someone else will, and their version will go viral before you've even opened your notes app. Once that beam of attention hits, every little move you made in the dark suddenly gets a forensic spotlight. That text you thought was casual. That post you thought no one would connect. It's all now evidence. You become less of a person and more of a case file. The worst part? The spotlight is merciless. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care if you've grown, changed, or made peace with your past. It only cares about what's now visible. And once something is visible, people will study it until they either find something to worship or something to destroy. In most cases, it's the latter, because online, forgiveness comes last. Dissection comes first. Number 3. They thought control was silence. But silence became the loudest confession. They thought control was silence. But silence became the loudest confession. For a while, staying quiet felt like the smartest move. Say nothing, ride it out, wait for the chaos to pass. That used to work, but not anymore. In today's world, silence doesn't read as strength. It reads as guilt. And when someone stays silent while things are blowing up around them, it doesn't calm people down. It makes them dig harder. The internet thrives on answers. If you don't give one, someone else will, and chances are their version won't be kind. Staying quiet makes people suspicious. It creates a vacuum that gets filled with speculation, assumptions, and worst-case scenarios. Suddenly, your silence becomes a magnet for every theory and conspiracy. People start to believe that your refusal to speak is confirmation, that you're only quiet because you got caught, because you're guilty, because you're scrambling behind the scenes to fix what can't be fixed. The truth is, people respect honesty more than perfection. Owning up, showing up, even if it's messy, earns more trust than a blank screen and no comment. But when someone chooses silence in the middle of exposure, it doesn't look like damage control. It looks like fear. And fear, especially when it comes from someone who was once seen as powerful, changes the whole perception. The hero becomes the villain. The mystery becomes the proof. What's wild is how quickly silence turns from a pause into a statement. Every hour without a response becomes louder. Every day they say nothing. The internet fills in the gaps, and once people feel like you're dodging the truth, they'll start hunting harder, not for clarity, but for collapse. So no, silence isn't safe anymore. It's not neutral. It's not wise. In a world addicted to transparency, staying quiet during a storm doesn't protect you, it exposes you. Because now, people don't wait for the truth. They build it themselves. And silence is the perfect material for a downfall. Number 4. The internet is a mirror with teeth. The internet is a mirror with teeth. It doesn't just show you who you are, it studies you, stores you, and if you're not careful, it bites. The moment you step online, you're not just presenting yourself to the world, you're feeding a machine that logs everything, the real, the fake, the filtered, the forgotten. And unlike people, the internet doesn't let things go. It doesn't forgive. And it doesn't move on. It waits. When you lie to the internet, you're not lying to a screen. You're lying to millions of people with memory, receipts, and time. You might think you're controlling the narrative, but the web is already 3 steps ahead, cross-checking your past posts, digging through your deleted content and pulling contradictions out like evidence in a trial you didn't know you were in. That curated image you built, one exposed truth can shatter it. And when it breaks, it cuts. Not just your reputation, but your credibility, your relationships, your income, everything. What makes the internet dangerous isn't just how fast it spreads information, but how deeply it archives it. You can delete, but someone's already screen recorded. You can deny, but someone's got timestamps. You can disappear, but the algorithm still remembers your name. The lie might feel small when you post it, but online, nothing stays small. Every word, every photo, every harmless tweet becomes part of a bigger puzzle. And if the final picture shows something fake, the backlash is instant and sharp. People used to say the internet reflects the world. That's no longer true. It amplifies it. It turns whispers into shouts, mistakes into scandals, and patterns into proof. And when it turns on you, it doesn't just hold up the mirror. It shows your reflection through a magnifying glass, sharpened and unforgiving. Lie to it once, and it might ignore you. Lie to it twice, and it sharpens its teeth. Number 5. Being the chosen one. Doesn't mean you were picked for greatness. You might have been picked for sacrifice. Being the chosen one doesn't always mean you were picked to rise. It might mean you were picked to fall loudly, publicly, and completely. In this era, the internet doesn't just crown people, it uses them. One day you're the golden child, the blueprint, the favorite. The next, you're the warning label, the example everyone points to when they say, "Don't be like them." Sometimes you're not chosen because you're special. You're chosen because you're visible, flawed, and overexposed. You become the perfect case study, not because you're the worst, but because you were loudest while pretending to be perfect. And that contrast, that's what people feed on. They want a spectacle. They want someone to crash and burn so they can roast marshmallows over the wreckage. The truth is, the internet has a short attention span but a long memory. It loves to build people up just to watch them collapse. And being put on a pedestal online is like being strapped to a rocket with no seatbelt. The higher you're lifted by public praise, the harder you'll hit the ground if anything real leaks. And when you fall, there's no cushion, no PR-friendly silence that softens the blow. There's just exposure, raw, fast, and relentless. You don't get to decide what you're chosen for anymore. The audience does. And sometimes you're not the hero of the story. They just cast you as the villain in a plot twist you never saw coming. You become a lesson, a headline, a punchline. Your downfall becomes content. Think pieces, memes, reaction videos. It's not fair, but it's real. Online fame is a double-edged sword. One side cuts through obscurity, the other slices through your reputation the moment the mask slips. So no, being chosen doesn't always mean success. Sometimes it means you're next in line to take the hit, so everyone else watching can feel smarter, safer, or more righteous. And once that fall begins, there's no pause button, no edit, no grace, just the hard truth going viral. Number 6. The truth doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs one screenshot. The truth doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs one screenshot. That's all it takes now. One DM, one email, one voice note, one photo, unfiltered, unedited, undeniable. In a world where people carefully craft their image, control their narrative, and perform their lives for public approval, a single piece of unplanned, unscripted reality can destroy everything they built. And the worst part? It doesn't even have to go viral. It just has to exist. Lies are loud. They're dressed up, polished, repeated until they sound like facts. But the truth? It's quiet. It doesn't perform. It just shows up. And it hits different. Because people aren't looking for perfection anymore. They're looking for real. And the moment something real leaks out, it cuts through all the noise. It doesn't need context, backstory, or branding. A screenshot of something you weren't supposed to say can say more than your whole PR team ever could. That's the danger people underestimate. They think they can bury the truth under aesthetics, good intentions, or charm. But the truth doesn't stay buried in a digital world. Someone always has the receipts, someone always saved it, and when that truth drops, it's like a grenade in a glass house. No warning, no spin, just boom, and the damage is instant. Empires that took years to build online can collapse in a matter of minutes, not because of rumors, but because of reality. You said it, you typed it, you sent it, and now it's public. And when people see the real version of you, the version that doesn't match your content, your brand, your carefully managed persona, they don't just lose respect, they feel deceived. And that feeling doesn't fade, it spreads. A screenshot doesn't argue, it doesn't need to. It's the proof everyone was waiting for. The moment everything clicks. The timeline doesn't care if you were misunderstood. If it looks bad, it is bad. Perception rules and screenshots seal the verdict. So, while lies might echo in headlines and hashtags, one small, raw, ugly truth can silence all of it. Not with noise, but with evidence. And in this age, truth doesn't scream. It just quietly ends you. Number 7. Privacy is now a currency. And they went bankrupt. Privacy is no longer a right. It's a currency. And in today's world, it's the most valuable thing you can have. Not because it makes you rich, but because it keeps you safe. It protects your peace, your credibility, your control. But the moment you start trading pieces of your private life for attention, fame, or clout, you're making transactions, and if you're not careful, you'll overspend without realizing the price. That's exactly what happens to people who confuse exposure with success. They show just enough to get noticed, just enough to stay relevant, but not enough to be real. It starts small, a story here, a behind-the-scenes moment there, maybe a vulnerable post to keep followers engaged, but each share chips away at the walls. And before they know it, they've given away too much to pull back, and people are watching closely, taking notes, saving screenshots. The problem is, secrets don't stay secrets once you've made yourself public. When you live online, everything is potential content, for you and everyone else. The more you've shown, the more people feel entitled to the rest. And when the narrative breaks, when something slips that wasn't meant to, the public doesn't just see a mistake, they see a breach of trust. And they dig, Because curiosity mixed with access is dangerous, and the internet never forgets a lead. Every lie, every contradiction, every cover-up has a digital receipt, and those receipts never expire. You might delete it, deny it, or pretend it didn't happen, but someone somewhere has the file, the photo, the message. And the second your story doesn't add up, it comes back with interest. Your secrets become evidence, your silence becomes suspicious. And your privacy, what's left of it, becomes the cost of the image you tried to protect. They went bankrupt trying to maintain control. They spent their truth on followers and fake perfection, and now there's nothing left to protect them. No credibility, no trust, no privacy, just noise, exposure, and consequences. In this world, you don't lose your privacy all at once. You give it away, bit by bit, until you're in debt to the internet. And when it comes to collect, it takes everything. Number 8. Virality isn't fame. It's exposure without consent. Virality isn't fame. It's exposure without consent. It's not applause, it's surveillance with a spotlight. When you go viral, it doesn't mean people love you. It means people noticed you, and that's not always a good thing. You don't get to decide what part of you goes viral. It could be your worst moment, a misunderstood sentence, or a split-second mistake caught on camera. And once it's out there, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Going viral means losing control. The story stops being yours the second it hits the feed. Strangers become editors, analysts, and critics. They clip, repost, meme, and twist your truth until it becomes entertainment. Suddenly, your life is trending, but not because of who you are, but because of how useful your downfall is to someone else's content, outrage, or punchline. People think virality is some kind of achievement. It's not. It's being dragged into a stadium full of people with opinions, none of whom know you, but all of whom think they do. Your voice gets drowned out by hot takes, reaction videos, and think pieces from people who only know a fraction of your story. But say it louder, funnier, or more aggressively than you ever could. They don't care about context. They care about clicks. And the worst part? You don't get to log off. Even if you stay silent, even if you hide, the internet keeps talking. The moment you went viral, your privacy, your reputation, your identity, they were all handed over to the timeline like a group project that everyone thinks they can rewrite better. It's not fame. Fame gives you some say. Virality takes your voice and replaces it with noise. It's not a celebration. It's a loss of control dressed up like attention. So no, going viral isn't a win. It's exposure without permission, interpretation without accuracy, and influence without agency. It's strangers narrating your life in real time while you watch helplessly, knowing they'll move on eventually. But the damage won't. Number 9. What was hidden was never safe. It was just waiting to be weaponized. What was hidden was never safe. It was just waiting to be weaponized. In the digital age, secrecy isn't protection. It's just a ticking clock. People think if something hasn't surfaced, it's been forgotten. But online, nothing ever truly disappears. Old messages, deleted posts, buried videos, they're all landmines waiting to go off. And when they do, they don't just make noise, they do damage. Digital closets don't lock. They might look shut, but someone always has the key. A former friend, a bitter ex, a random follower with a long memory and faster fingers. All it takes is one person, one motive, one moment, and the skeletons come crashing out. And in today's culture, people love a reveal. Not because they care about the truth, but because exposing someone gives them power. Turning your past into their content makes them feel important, even if it leaves your life in ruins. The internet doesn't care how long ago it happened, if you've changed, or if you had a reason. Once it leaks, it's alive again. Context is the first casualty. People will screenshot a private joke and turn it into a scandal. They'll crop a message, strip the timeline, and make you look like a villain in a story they're rewriting in real time. The mistake isn't just what you did, it's believing it would stay buried. The digital world isn't made for secrets, it's built for surveillance. Everything leaves a trace. Every private moment has a back door. And when people want to come for you, they don't need to make anything up. They just need to dig. And when they find it, they won't hesitate to use it. So no, what was hidden wasn't secure, it was just quiet. And quiet things don't stay that way when attention is currency and takedowns trend. If it can be weaponized, it will be. Not if, when. And once it's out, it's not just your past on trial, it's your entire persona. Because online, skeletons don't just fall out, they get retweeted, memed, dissected, and pinned to your name like a digital scar. Number 10, they didn't just lose their mask, they lost the right to wear one. They didn't just lose their mask, they lost the right to wear one. When the truth surfaces and the facade cracks, there's no slipping back into character. The costume doesn't fit anymore. People saw what was underneath, and now every polished statement, every curated post, every staged smile feels like an insult. Once you're exposed, pretending becomes impossible and unforgivable. The internet doesn't do amnesia. Once your truth hits the surface, people don't just remember it. They redefine you by it. You're no longer the brand, the influencer, the leader, the role model. You're the contradiction, the fraud, the one who preached one thing and practiced another. And that gap between your persona and your reality, that's where the public drags you. That's where your legacy starts bleeding. There's no return to glossy perfection after that. PR statements fall flat. Rebranding feels fake. Even silence is read as strategy. People don't want the version of you you're trying to salvage. They want the real you or none of you at all. And if they feel like you're still hiding, still spinning, still trying to manipulate the narrative, they'll finish the job for you. Once the mask is gone, authenticity isn't a suggestion, it's mandatory. You either own it, or it owns you. You tell the truth, or the internet writes its version. And its version will never be in your favor. This is the cost of living a double life online. You can sell the dream, but if the receipts say otherwise, the dream dies publicly. And when it does, people don't just cancel you. They strip away your credibility, your authority, and your influence. You don't get to rebuild behind the scenes. You don't get to quietly rebrand and move on. You get watched. You get fact-checked. You get remembered. But not for the reasons you hoped. So no, they didn't just lose the mask. They lost the privilege of illusion. And in a world wired for receipts and reality, once you lose that, there's no going back. Number 11. They mistook influence for immunity. They mistook influence for immunity. Just because you have thousands or millions of followers doesn't mean you're untouchable. Influence isn't a shield, it's a spotlight. The bigger your platform, the louder your mistakes echo, and the harsher the fallout feels. Having a crowd doesn't erase the consequences, it amplifies them. Too many think a large following buys them forgiveness, that fans will overlook anything because of loyalty or charisma. But that's a dangerous delusion. Followers aren't blind supporters, they're a mix of critics, opportunists, and spectators waiting for the next spectacle. When you stumble, they don't just watch quietly. They share, dissect, and sometimes weaponize your failure to fuel their own rise or entertainment. A massive platform means every slip is broadcast worldwide, every misstep magnified. Your errors don't disappear, they multiply. And with that comes relentless pressure to perform perfection continuously, even though perfection doesn't exist. When you inevitably fail, it's not just a fall, it's a public crash, with every detail scrutinized and replayed like a viral replay. Influence doesn't grant immunity from accountability, it demands it. Your audience expects you to live up to the persona you've built, or they'll hold you accountable in ways smaller communities won't. And if you can't meet those expectations, they won't just forget. They'll make sure everyone else remembers. So influence isn't a free pass. It's a high-wire act with no safety net, where the bigger your crowd, the bigger the consequences when you slip. Mistaking influence for immunity is the quickest way to turn fans into critics, applause into backlash, and a rise into a ruthless downfall. Number 12. Clout can't cover character. Clout can't cover character. You can splash your feed with flashy posts, viral moments, and catchy slogans, but none of that masks what you actually are. Integrity isn't something you can Photoshop or spin. It's built in the quiet moments, the private conversations, and the actions people don't see on camera. No filter, no trending hashtag, no influencer campaign can rewrite the story your DMs, your deals, or your digital footprint tell. People crave authenticity, but what they really punish is hypocrisy. When your public image screams one thing, but your behind-the-scenes behavior tells a different story, the gap between the two becomes a chasm that clout can't bridge. Viral fame is temporary, but character is permanent. It's what sticks when the spotlight fades and the cameras stop rolling. Your digital footprint is like a truth serum. It holds everything, unfiltered, time-stamped, and often permanent. A flashy post can be deleted, but screenshots and archives live forever. Every private message, every shady deal, every inconsistency in your online and offline life becomes part of your real reputation. And when those pieces surface, clout is powerless, because no viral moment can erase the reality that was captured in silence. At the end of the day, clout only buys attention, not respect. It's easy to fake confidence and charisma for the camera, but real respect comes from who you are when no one's watching. And the internet remembers everything you do, good or bad. So don't confuse clout for character. One fades with trends. The other defines your legacy. Number 13. Your reputation isn't what you post, it's what leaks when you're not looking. Your reputation isn't what you post, it's what leaks when you're not looking. The polished photos, crafted captions, and perfectly timed updates are just the surface, a carefully controlled highlight reel. But the real story, it's told in the moments you didn't plan to share. The messages sent in frustration, the deleted comments, the late-night confessions, and the private conversations you thought were safe. The truest version of someone hides in those fragments, the raw, unfiltered pieces that slip through cracks or resurface years later. These unintended leaks reveal what you really think, who you really are when the spotlight fades and the mask comes off. Because while you can curate what the world sees, you can't control every moment behind the screen. And those moments, they speak louder than any post ever could. Reputation isn't built by what you want people to know. It's shaped by what they find out when you're off guard. The internet is a digital detective, piecing together scattered clues to form a picture that no amount of editing or spin can erase. And once those fragments surface, your carefully constructed image can unravel fast, leaving behind the version of you you tried hardest to hide. So if you think your reputation lives in your posts, think again. It lives in the truths you tried to bury and the leaks you never saw coming. That's the real story everyone's waiting to discover. Number 14. We're not in the age of exposure. We're in the age of accountability. We're not in the age of exposure. We're in the age of accountability. The internet no longer just uncovers secrets or reveals hidden sides. It holds people to a new, relentless standard. Going public isn't the punishment anymore, it's the reckoning. The moment your private actions slip into the public eye, you're not just exposed, you're judged, measured, and sentenced by a global jury with no appeals process. This isn't about slips or mistakes as much as it's about the truth behind the mask. If you were a villain behind closed doors, it doesn't matter how much you smile for the camera or how many followers you have. When your private misdeeds, shady deals, or harmful words come to light, they show you in HD, crystal clear, and the world sees it all. There's no blurry filter for your character when accountability demands clarity. In previous eras, people could hide behind distance, excuses, or denial. But today, everything is documented, archived, and searchable. The internet is a relentless auditor, keeping records that go back years, ready to resurface and remind the public who you really were. Private isn't private anymore. It's just waiting for the right moment to become public. And that moment is rarely kind. Accountability is brutal because it demands more than just a public apology or a clever PR campaign. It demands action, transparency, and change. It forces you to confront your past and face consequences that aren't negotiable or forgettable. Social media has turned the court of public opinion into a permanent fixture, where every word, every fact, every receipt can be summoned to prove or disprove your character. If you were decent in private, this age can be a chance for redemption and growth, because truth then aligns with your public persona. But if you were the villain, if you thrived on deception, manipulation, or harm behind the scenes, you're exposed with no escape. Your fall won't be a quiet one. It'll be viral, dissected, memed, and remembered. This isn't just a phase, it's a new reality. We're not living in a time where being exposed means you're done hiding. We're living in a time where being held accountable means you can't hide anymore. And in this age, the truth doesn't just come out. It stays out, glaring in HD for all to see. In the end, this isn't just a story about someone being exposed. It's a warning about the world we live in now, where the line between public and private no longer exists, where screenshots carry more weight than statements, and where your truth is only as strong as your integrity when no one's watching. We are not living in a time where mistakes disappear or where carefully managed images protect us. We're in an era where character is king, and the internet is judge, jury, and executioner. Every post, every DM, every nobody will see this moment is a breadcrumb, and trust me, someone's collecting them. What was once locked behind closed doors can now be broadcast in seconds, and not for justice, sometimes just for clicks. Being the chosen one doesn't guarantee glory. Sometimes it means being the example, the person whose fall teaches everyone else how high the stakes really are. In this digital age, what makes you trend today might be what makes you fall tomorrow. And when that fall comes, you won't land quietly. You'll land in front of millions. So here's the uncomfortable truth. If you built your influence on illusion, it will collapse. If you confused popularity with purpose, that confusion will cost you. And if you thought secrets stay silent online, this is your wake-up call. They scream eventually, and louder than you ever will. Your legacy won't be shaped by what you post on purpose. It'll be defined by what leaks when you're not looking. And no amount of clout, PR, or curated aesthetics can cover up a fractured foundation. The receipts are always waiting. The reckoning is always closer than you think. So the question isn't, will I be exposed? The question is, when it happens, will the truth be your downfall or your defense? Because in the age of accountability, the internet doesn't just reveal who you are. It remembers forever. If this hit home and gave you that aha moment, don't just scroll by, hit that subscribe button and join the conversation. Drop a like if you're ready to face the truth. Leave a comment with your thoughts or stories and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep it real, keep it raw, and most importantly, keep it moving. Your voice matters, so make it count.